My name is Sean Spano, and I'll be your facilitator tonight for this community meeting. We're really pleased that you're going to come out and join us and provide us some information about a crime-free program, safety in your neighborhoods, crime in your neighborhoods, and any suggestions you have for enhancing safety, making your neighborhoods more safe and crime prevention. So that's really what our meeting is about tonight. We have three purposes tonight. One is to learn about the crime-free program, and we're anxious to hear your thoughts about the crime-free program, your reactions to that. We also want to hear your concerns about safety, around crime, around your apartment complexes, and in your immediate neighborhood. We're also interested to hear any suggestions that you have for how to enhance safety, how to prevent crime in your apartments, complexes, and around your neighborhoods. So that's the focus of our meeting tonight. And the way we're going to run the meeting tonight is, in just a moment, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Esther Moda from the police department, and she's going to walk you through just a couple slides, and those slides provide the information about the crime-free program. Following that, if you have any questions about the program, clarifying questions, something's not clear to you, you need additional explanation, then let's take those in the large group. Any questions you have about the program, any questions you have about the presentation. Then we get a chance to actually have a dialogue tonight. And that dialogue will take place in small groups, where we'll break into a couple different small groups. We'll have a Spanish-speaking group that will be facilitated, as well as an English-speaking group that will be facilitated. And if there's a need, we're also prepared to have a Vietnamese language group as well. And in those groups, that's where you'll have an opportunity to provide some evaluative comments about the program, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, as well as that's an opportunity for you to share your concerns around safety and offer your suggestions as well. So that's our format for tonight. And I want to make a couple overarching comments here about making sure that you signed in. We hopefully that you signed in. Because we want to have your name and email address to be able to talk to you and communicate with you in the future about the program as it progresses. We also have comment cards. So in addition to the input that you'll be providing us tonight, and we're going to be recording all the input. I'm joined by my colleague, Kiva Hummel. She's taking notes, and in the back, Linda Blong is taking notes, so we're taking notes. You'll see when we get into the small groups, there'll be a facilitator, and somebody will be recording your comments on flip charts. So it's very important that we capture your input tonight, because that's what the whole purpose of the meeting is, to hear from you. And in addition to that, we have comment cards. So if you want to provide your comments in writing, you can provide your comments orally tonight for sure, but if you also want to provide us with written comments or written questions, the comment cards are over on the table, and we encourage you to do that, and we'll be collecting those at the end of the night as well. So I'm joined, I just mentioned a couple of my colleagues taking notes. There's several city staff around the room that are here to facilitate, answer questions. You'll meet Esther Moda in just a minute. And I do want to introduce a couple staff members from the council member's office and from the mayor's office. So we're fortunate tonight that from the mayor's office, Paul Brieri is joining us tonight. Some of you may know Paul, very engaged community staff member. And from council member Perales' office, we have Lucila, pronounce your name for me.
Lucila.
Thank you. Ms. Diaz, and she's here tonight as well, and so she'll be observing here tonight. With that said, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in terms of getting us organized. So as I said, the next step here is to hear from Esther to hear about the crime-free program. So she has a couple slides, she'll walk through the slides. So as you're listening, if any questions come up about anything that needs additional explanation, anything that's not clear to you, hold those questions to the end of the presentation and we'll take those in the large group. So, Esther.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and again, thank you for coming out. I know that it's been a long day, and the weather has not been very, it's been cold and rainy. So again, thank you so much for coming out. Again, like Sean had mentioned, I'm here. I have a couple of slides here to talk about what is the crime-free multi-housing program, and again, I'm going to share with you what is actually some of this program that's actually being implemented in various cities. So again, as he mentioned, it's a nationwide program. Right now in the Bay Area, you have the city of Dublin, the city of Castro Valley, you have San Leandro, and you have Hayward, and you have Fremont, who actually have this program. And so the information that I'm sharing tonight is actually some of the materials that I've seen from their cities, and then also from the founder. And the founder's name is Tim Zehring, in case anybody was asking that, Zehring. So, and again, you can find this information on the website. So again, this particular program is actually, it's a law enforcement program. It's actually run by the law enforcement in those various cities. They are the lead. And the way they look at it is that this is a crime prevention program, and it's a partnership between law enforcement, the property owner, and the tenant. Go to the second one. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the components of this program. And again, there's this particular approach that they use. And this one really is about working with the property owners, and then also with the managers, and then also with their staff, as well as working with the tenants. And so the first phase that they usually do is the property management and team, which is an 8-hour training. So say if somebody was to say, yes, we want this program, you know, in our multi-housing area. One of the things that they would have to agree to is they would actually have to agree to this 3-phase approach. And so the first phase, like I mentioned, they would have to agree that it's the property owner, their management, the custodian, anybody that works for the property owner, that they would have to commit to an 8-hour training. And I'll go over in the next slide a little bit more in detail the type of trainings that they would, the type of information that they would get. Phase 2, they'd also have to agree on this, which is called a security assessment. They'd have to agree that we, as far as when I say we, it would be like law enforcement, right? So like, again, in other cities, it's either an officer or a crime prevention specialist that will go through the multi-housing unit, and they'll actually do a crime prevention. It's called CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. And I'll show you a picture and talk a little bit about it too in the next slide that's coming up. And then phase 3 is that opportunity to bring the property owner, the management, all their staff, as well as the tenants that live there, to bring them together. And again, I'll talk a little bit more, but I just wanted to go over that this is these 3 phases is what is implemented. So if we can get the next slide. Oh, there you are. Sorry. Okay, so under here for phase 1, which again, this is the one that I talked to you about, where it's actually a requirement. It's an 8-hour training. And in that, during those 8 hours, what they do is they go over crime prevention, and they really go over what is the purpose of the program. They'll go over the requirements of the program. And I just also wanted to mention too that this is voluntary. So this is not a mandatory program. The only place that I know that it becomes mandatory is actually in Las Vegas. Las Vegas has an ordinance that I believe if a property owner owns 3 properties, the next one is they are required that they have to implement this program. And that's only in Las Vegas area that I'm aware of. Otherwise, the other cities, it's all voluntary. And so again, they talk about the importance of screening the applicant. They go over basic housing, basic fair housing. They'll even go over like crisis resolution and the eviction process. When they say here, maintain a fire and safe environment, usually during this 8-hour training, they have an officer who usually presents, a crime prevention specialist at times. They'll have an attorney that will come and talk, and then also someone from fire. Other signs that you'll see here, the officers would give this, the warning signs of drug activity and gang recognition. Tips for drugs and action to take if they suspect illegal activity on their property. And then understanding criminal background checks. And so again, some people have asked, you know, I know in some police departments, I'm not really sure, but here in San Jose, I know that a person cannot go to the police department to get a criminal background check. But I know that it is available for people who want do this online, so I just wanted to mention that because I know that it's come up. So again, that is a component that again, the property owner, the management, and all of the staff need to attend that first phase. The second phase now, again, this is something when they implement this program, is that they also agree that they would have somebody from law enforcement. So again, it could either be an officer or a crime prevention specialist. What they'll do is they'll go with whether if it's the property owner or the manager or the management, and they'll walk around the property. So it's an opportunity to take a look at ways to improve safety around the complex. So a lot of times they'll look at lighting. Is there enough lighting where people are parking their cars or maybe entering different ways? So again, they're looking at lighting. They look at the bolt locks, right? What kind of locks do they have? Is it a lock that's really secure or not? So that's something else that they do. They'll take a look at also, at windows. They'll even look at shrubs, because again, if the shrubs are really overgrown, people really can't see. Again, it's just a way to minimize risk. So, and that is currently done here in San Jose, because somebody had asked me before, we do this in the city of San Jose already, and we do this already in the city of San Jose. So, but again, this is also a requirement for anybody that wants to implement the crime-free program. And the third phase is, like I mentioned, this is the phase where they'll have usually a 4-hour. It's a meeting. They bring everybody again together. It's the tenants, it's the management, and they talk about what are the management's concerns about safety that's going on around. They'll talk about, okay, so what are the residents' concerns about what's happening? And so at the same time too, it's an opportunity for the property owner and the management to also talk about what are improvements that they're making based on that SEPTED, that assessment. And then the residents will get a neighborhood watch presentation, so they'll be able to get information again to prevent some ideas to prevent crime. Also personal safety tips, utilizing 911. Again, being proactive, the importance of them really getting to know their neighbors, and then the resources. So this is one of this is like more or less, I call it the educational component of crime-free. Now, the other piece though is, and then that's when we can get into the next part of it. Now, again, another requirement, again, this is voluntary, but the property owner must agree that if they're going to implement this, that they have to have, that all of their tenants have to have a lease agreement. So they have to have a lease agreement. The second one is that they all also need to sign this crime-free lease addendum, okay? And I've shortened it. You can actually find the crime-free lease addendum on the internet. So if you were to go on the internet and type this up, you would actually see some examples of what that looks like. So I tried to capture as much as I could, on what really the meaning behind what they're signing, or just to understand that. So again, the lease addendum it's a civic document, right? And so it's basically a contract between the landlord and the tenant. And so again, anybody that comes, and if they're going to want to rent there, right, become a tenant, they have to agree that they have to make sure that they sign a lease, and that they also sign this crime-free lease addendum. And basically what it says is that they have to abide by the rules of the property and not participate in or allow criminal activity to occur, at least within their influence. And so yeah, I wanted to be real clear that again, when they sign, people who sign this, they're basically saying that if they or someone that lives with them that has signed the lease agreement, the lease addendum, or even a guest who comes and they actually commit illegal or criminal activity, that they are subject to basically be evicted. Okay, so the other part of this here too that's part of this lease addendum, because some of you might ask, well, okay, so how do they even find out, right? How do they even find out that someone has actually committed a criminal activity or illegal activity? Well, part of this program, since it is law enforcement, right, that it comes from law enforcement, what will happen is the law enforcement officer will actually share information with the property management or owner. And these are the type of information that they would share. So if anyone that lives in the crime-free multi-housing unit that actually engages in illegal activity, for example, that includes drug-related criminal activity, prostitution, criminal street gang activity, assault and battery, discharge of firearms, sexual offenses, and any act intended to facilitate criminal activity on or near the premises. So that's another one, right, that they say it's on or near, or again, when the program was first started, it said on or off. So you're going to find in different cities, some of them say on and off, and some of them say on and off and on. So they have that same, it's that language there. And then someone mentioned, what about if somebody committed a homicide, if they were, charged with a homicide? Yes, that would also, that's not on there, but again, that's a pretty serious criminal crime, right? And then the bottom one is a violation of the above illegal activities shall be a good cause for immediate termination of the tenant, and proof of violation shall not require a criminal conviction. And the reason why it's more is because, again, this is a civil, and so I'm not a lawyer, but I do know that there's two, and I'm talking about this because, again, I know that this has been some questions. This is our 4th meeting already, so I am aware of people's, comments and concerns, and so I just wanted to mention that there's 2 separate legal courts, right? There's a civil, and then there's also a criminal, and so this would fall under civic. So again, I don't have the addendum with me, but these are some of the, the really parts that really stand out, and some people have had concerns about that. I also wanted to mention too that some people had mentioned, well, would you be sharing information on juveniles? And the question is no, we cannot be sharing information on criminals. I mean, not criminals, on juveniles, right? Again, if they are being charged for an adult, that could be something that that people would, right? That people would share because they're already looking at convicting this young person as an adult. So that could be something that would fall in there. Other people had talked about what about domestic violence, and I know already with the police department, we are not to share that information. That is by law that we're not supposed to be sharing that information. So, and again, that's a protected class in the sense of for women that have been a victim. So I know that they're a protected class. So that's another one. People have asked, what about immigration? And so I know, again, immigration here and again, in the other cities, I haven't heard about it, but they don't look at immigration. They focus mainly on these criminal activities, right? But then somebody mentioned, Esther, but it says any illegal activity. So that is another component, right? That again, they're pointing out some of these, but in other cities, in this and in this lease, it does say any illegal activity. So I mean, I'm just sharing again what a little bit about the program, and again this addendum that's actually required if anybody was to implement the program. And I know I have if anybody has questions, it's pretty short, but this is what I have.
And so before we move to questions, let me just mention one thing very important. The city has not adopted this program. The whole purpose for having this community meeting, as well as the prior 3 community meetings, is to present the program to you and to get your feedback to help staff make recommendations to council about whether to adopt this program, not adopt it, or adopt some variation of this program. So it's very important. We're in exploratory mode here, exploring the possibility of adopting this program or something like this program, or not adopting the program at all. So that's why you're here tonight, to provide us with your thoughts, your reactions around this program, as well as your safety concerns and suggestions. So right now what we'd like to do is, and Esther walked us through the 4 slides and went through relatively quickly, do you have any questions about the program? Now remember, we're going to be in small groups, and you'll be able to tell us what you like about it, what you don't like about it, your concerns around safety and suggestions. But at this point, any clarifying questions? Anything need additional explanation? Okay, so if that microphone might work, Esther, and I'll mount person this microphone here. Questions?
Yeah, it's a clarifying question. Esther, you mentioned that because it's civil law, not criminal law, it may or may not apply to certain rights. I am curious around just constitutional rights in terms of sharing information with essentially a third party, which is your property manager or property owner, and if that's come up in any questions, and if that's what you were alluding to when you kind of explained that.
Yeah, no, I wasn't alluding to that. All I know is that that's what I've been, that I've learned right through this whole process of even learning about this program, is that there's two different courts. There's either civil or criminal. And that since this is a civil document, this would actually fall under the civil courts. And I think what also too, when you have a criminal, it's I believe it's a burden of proof, right? You got to be really almost close to 100% that it's right. And I understand with the civil, it's more like, okay, if you got like 51%, if you got some, you know, some stats or whatever, some evidence that shows it, all I need is 51%, then that's how it is with the civil. Beyond that technical, I have, you know, I don't have any more information that I could, you know, be able to share with you. So, but yes, this is what the other cities are implementing.
And did that answer your question?
Yes.
Good. Robert?
I have several questions here. You said that everyone has to have a lease. What if this apartment or rental unit, whatever, has people that have a month-to-month rental agreement? Will they have to sign a new lease? And what is the length of that lease? That's one question.
Can I answer that one real quick, please? Because I know you got the list, so that way I can remember. I know one of the things that the other cities are doing is that they do a 1 year. They'll do a 1 year lease, because part of what they also require that as the property managers, that they actually have this training every year. So that's what they're doing. And then what other cities have been doing is, for example, is say you implement it, right? And so anybody that's new, that's coming in, they would have to sign the leases. But say if a person was already there, the way that other cities do it is they'll wait till that person's lease is up in order for them to actually sign it. So that's what some other cities are doing.
Right, but if they're already on month-to-month and you want to implement this plan, do you then make them sign a new lease?
I guess my question to you is that with what I've heard is the other cities are not, I haven't heard the month-to-month. What I'm hearing is that they're asking the property owners and the managers to do at least 1 year lease agreements and not month-to-month.
Okay, next question is, what is considered as proof of violation? There in the bottom part there. It says, proof of violation shall not require criminal conviction. So what is proof of violation?
The proof of violation would be, for example, if somebody was, say for example, somebody called in and said, you know what, we believe apartment 9 is selling, because every time, you know, we see a lot of people coming in and out of the, I mean, I'm just giving an example, right? So
They could be selling either.
Yeah, well, you know, that would be nice, right? But again, I don't want to argue, you know, again, I'm just trying to give examples. Or it could be somebody who did a serious crime and it comes back where they live in the apartment complex, right? That they were picked up for doing, maybe assaulting somebody, and it was very serious. And they find out that they actually live in that apartment complex. Again, because it's law enforcement driven, they will actually share that information with the manager to be able to say that they were, you know, that they were actually picked up for an assault and that they know that they lived there. So that would be the proof of violation.
So it would have to be reported by the police and not by some neighbor that happens to think, you know,
Yes.
Gladys is there watching out of her window. Okay, so that's one. I have another question here. What is required for good cause for immediate termination?
For good cause, again, going back to civil, right, the civil court, they would, a good cause would be, again, if they are aware that they've committed any illegal or criminal activity, that would be, that's pretty much what the information is that they're sharing.
Right, so if they're caught driving without a driver's license.
That would not be reported. That would not, the other police departments are not reporting that. The only thing they're sharing with the managers and the property owners would be these serious crimes that are up here, but they would not share, they wouldn't share that. At least that's what my understanding is that they're not sharing that information.
All right, my final question is, who determines if someone is suspected of criminal activity?
Repeat that question?
Okay, who determines if someone is suspected of criminal activity?
If they're suspected, again, if I use that word, that's not a good technical word for me to use, because again, they would have had to have gotten arrested, right, in order for, in any of these criminal activities. At least that's what the other police departments are doing that have this program. Again, if it comes to their attention that they've been arrested, right, for doing it, then that's when they would share information.
Okay, so it's not on suspicion.
Yes.
You have to actually be arrested.
Yes.
Okay, we have a question here, Maria.
Tengo una duda, pregunta. Usted está comentando que los dueños van a tener que hacer como dos contratos, uno donde arrenda el departamento y otro donde tienen que crimen free lease, ese contrato. Pero ¿qué va a pasar si yo estoy de acuerdo y puedo rentar ese departamento, pero no estoy de acuerdo en firmar el otro contrato de crimen, de no crimen? ¿Voy a tener el derecho de rentar ese lugar o no voy a tener derecho de rentar ese lugar?
Okay, so you mentioned that in order for me to rent, I would have to ask the future tenants to sign two contracts, the lease contract and then this free crime addendum. So what happens if I only agree with the main contract, the lease, and what if I don't agree with this one? Would I get in trouble if I don't ask the future tenants, if I don't ask them to sign this addendum?
I would say that in the other cities, that again, if this is something that the property owners have agreed that this is what they need to do, and in order to be part of the crime-free program, everybody would have to sign a lease, right? A lease, and then the crime-free lease addendum. Then, and if one of the tenants chooses not to, then I would think that the property owner then would have to make that decision. If they want to continue with the program, then they have to insist that the person sign the lease. If not, then they would need to leave.
Now, is she asking as a landlord or as a renter?
Landlord.
Okay, so this program is not mandatory, so if you don't want the program, you don't have to do the program.
And that's for the owners, right? Again, it's a voluntary program. Like she was mentioning, it's a voluntary program.
Good, excellent. We have a question here.
I have a question as far as other states, if they've collected any information about when someone has been arrested, been reported and evicted, and later on is not convicted for that arrest. Have there been, do the other cities, have they implemented any process as far as being able to rent again in that particular place? That's one question.
I just want to understand, okay, so I believe what I'm hearing you say, or maybe I might be creating a new question, I don't know. What I thought I heard you say is that, okay, say if people live in one city, right, and they get evicted, and is that what you're, and they move to another city?
No, I'm saying that the cities that have implemented this, and if someone is arrested for a crime, and then the police department reports it to the renter, and then they're evicted, and then in the legal process they are not convicted for that arrest, have there been any opportunities for them to get back that place that they were at, or is there any type of restitutions, thank you, Paul, for the person that may have been, their lease was terminated without having an actual conviction?
That I do not know.
Okay. And then my second question is that you talked about how the police departments are, what they're doing is, right, it's called the preponderance of the evidence, right? The weight of the evidence, right? Mm-hmm. And so are there any guidelines that those cities have to say, this case we are going to report, or this case we're not going to report, or is it 100% report?
I think it's gonna just, well, I can't really, I don't know. You know, again, I think it's per city, right? It's gonna be per city, but again, going back to the lease addendum, you know, again, because the communication that's occurring, and for me, as far as the information that I have found, and that when we talk to people, it's this information here that they're sharing, so.
I had two questions. One, I was wondering for the cities who have implemented it, if there's been any studies, follow-up studies on the impact on the housing market, or on particularly cities that are dealing with gentrification and displacement like San Jose, what the impact has been. And especially I was wondering for families that are either screened out by this process or are evicted through this process, if there's been any study of where they end up living afterwards. Do most families end up homeless? Like, has there been any study of where those families go?
Yeah, no, I have not seen anything. The only thing that I know that that other cities have shared is that they've seen a reduction of 20% of crime go down in those neighborhoods where they've actually implemented that. But no, I don't.
But there's been no housing studies.
No, there has not been.
And then my other question is, I know you said that police departments would share information about victims of domestic violence, but I was wondering if I live with my partner and my partner is arrested on a domestic violence claim, from my understanding, everyone who lives in the apartment then can be evicted. And so if I report my partner, or if someone reports someone in the apartment, then the victim themselves would be evicted as well, because everyone in the apartment under the lease would be evicted?
In that particular case, no. Only because, again, you know, with the, you know, my understanding again, right, and again with the police departments is that they're not supposed to share, right, information on domestic violence. But I know where you, yes, I know.
But if my partner's arrested on a claim of assault or battery, then they could be.
So what I'm hearing from other cities is that no, that they would not, you know, for example, they would not punish the victim. That the victim would be protected.
Question.
My question is just, I'm pretty sure you guys have done an economic study on the impact. Seems like more police activity probably would increase. So do we have any numbers on how much it will cost taxpayers?
No, I don't have that information on what other cities have done.
And because San Jose has not adopted this and it's not even in front of City Council, no budget decisions have been made in terms of cost or how it will be funded.
I have a question. You said that it's up to the community for this program to pass. How do you keep track of residents if they don't want the program in San Jose?
Good question. I know that we've had four meetings, right? This is the fourth meeting, and so we've actually tried. Well, we've actually canvassed, right, those residents, especially around the areas that we had the meeting. And so we've just invited them to come, right, to come. We've also shared with other people that we have a website to encourage residents who don't maybe feel comfortable coming, because that's the other thing we've heard. We've heard people say, I don't feel safe to come. I don't feel safe to come and share. So one of the things that we did was we created a website, and I know that it's in Spanish and it's in English, and I think we even have it in Vietnamese now, Aurelia. So we're encouraging other people that if you know any tenants, for them, you know, for them to fill it out, because it's true that there hasn't been a lot of tenants coming up, but we have canvassed the areas, the 4 areas that we've.
Okay, let's take one or two more questions and then we'll move into the small groups. Isaac.
This is very quick. I understand as a property owner that if a person is arrested but he's a good tenant for a long time, I suspect that maybe he's not as bad as whatever the police thinks. People ask what happened if he's exonerated. Then it's not mandatory on me to evacuate him, to evict him. It's, if I think that he's a good tenant, I can keep him, at least until I hear more about it. Am I right about that?
Yes, what other cities are doing is they're sharing information, but it's still up to the property owner and the management to do the eviction. Yeah, the police department is just providing the information, but it's still it's still up to the property owner to evict. Yeah, so in that particular case, say you were given information, and for some reason you have your own reason that you don't want to evict, then that's still it's on you to do it or not.
My name is Jennifer. I'm a property owner. I think it's a great idea for the city to implement this crime-free program. We do want to keep San Jose as a very safe city. We do want to help the city to implement the program. However, the property owners need to have the power to do so. We should have the power to evict suspecting criminals. Even if we don't have 100% evidence, we are not professional detectives. So when we have a high suspicion for such criminal activities, we should be able to evict the tenants. However, the just cause eviction proposal will prevent us from doing so. It strips the landlords the power to help the city with the crime-free program. I just want to make this comment.
Okay, so that starts moving us into what you like about the program and don't like about the program and evaluating the program, which is great, but we're all set up to receive that information in the small groups. So let's break into the small groups, and in those groups that are being facilitated, you'll have an opportunity to talk about your concerns around crime and safety in your apartment complexes. First, do introductions, and this is a chance for everybody to participate. We want to hear your concerns around crime and safety around your apartment complexes and near in the immediate area. We want to hear your suggestions, and if some of those suggestions match what is here in the crime-free program, great, but by no means are you restricted to that. Any suggestions you have for enhancing safety, preventing crime, and of course we want to hear your evaluative responses to this program, what you like and what you don't like about the program. And again, that will all be collected put in notes. Esther mentioned this is the fourth of 3 meetings on the website. All the notes from the previous meetings are now on that website, so they're available to you. And the notes from this meeting will be posted in the next day or 2. So we have a Spanish-speaking group, and where are the Spanish-speaking groups going to meet?
In the next room.
In the next room. So they're going to follow you?
Correct.
Okay, so if you want to join the Spanish-speaking group, you're going to follow her into the next room. And how many people are going to join the Spanish-speaking group? Wonderful. That's a great group. It's an excellent group. English-speaking group, we're going to be right here for the English-speaking group. And do we need a Vietnamese language group? We're not prepared for that tonight. Do I see any hands? Let me have you ask that question in Vietnamese.
Ở đây tối nay có ai cần thông dịch viên tiếng Việt không?
And so I'm going to encourage for this group here, let's all come up over here and move your chairs up and form a group over here.